Hello and good morning, folks. This is Grand Dungeon here again on Outlands, playing my character Zentarum today. This is my original character. This is the one that we went through yesterday with the really quirky build, and I just wanted to show kind of like a few things. So we talked about PvP pets the other day. This is a good PvP loadout here. You've got a Blood Courser. In my opinion, it is. Maybe I'm wrong, but in the testing I've done, this seems to be pretty successful. So I have a Blood Courser, I have a Blightmare, and I have a Eldritch Mephit. All important reasons for these. So the Eldritch Mephit, I believe I explained the Blightmare and the Blood Courser yesterday, but the Blood Courser has a bleed from an ability called Spell Flaying that it will apply on occasion to a player. So it's a status effect on a player. The Blightmare has a disease effect that it will apply on a player when it casts, potentially. So at some point, and they both cast regularly, so the chance that they're going to apply is pretty good at some point because they cast a lot. So they're good for that. All three of these pets are spell damage. All three of these pets are ranged, so it makes it harder for somebody to run away. This is one setup that you can use. This is just like I spoke about yesterday. The spell damage setup is good. Another thing that I wanted to go over, um, real quick, we'll cover this Eldritch ability because I said we were going to. Spell Break. So the ability, 15% chance on spellcast to inflict additional damage, and then damage that ignores armor and applies a hex effect. So hex is good. Hex reduces, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I believe it reduces the resistance to magic damage, but I could be off on that. But in any way, it's a debuff that you can apply on a player that helps magic damage. So I have the hex applied, and then all three of these pets do spell damage. So again, allowing all my damage, my capped damage to be applied. Because remember, in PvP, pet damage is capped. And I said that the damage on the wiki was not correct. I was right. There was a patch that was released where damage was changed for tamers in PvP. And I want to go through that this morning. I want to make sure that we grab it though, so you guys can actually see what I'm doing, unlike yesterday. I apologize for that yesterday. I was not fully showing the information I was pulling from. So let me see if I can grab Discord, capture any full screen, and then let's try and switch to Discord. Okay, that might be part of the reason it wasn't showing up. All right, close out of that. Don't need that. So we're going to go back to UO Outlands. I'm going to show you guys how to look up patch notes, but I need to find the application. Here we go. So, okay, switched it back to the Outlands Discord. So we're back in the Outlands Discord. We're going to go up here to patch notes. And then we're going to go all the way back to May, because I believe the patch that changed all this stuff was in May. So I just have to remember which one it was. I think it was the May 5th patch. So let's go look at patch notes. We're going to visit the site. And let me see if I need to switch this. I probably do. Yeah, okay, so now let me switch to Outlands Portal on Edge. Are you going to bring it up? Are you not going to bring it up? Bear with me a minute, folks. Oh, let's see. Just trying to find one of these settings that works. Oh, it does not want to seem to capture any full screen application. No, not doing that. Specific window. Okay, so that one's not working for any of them. So let's try. I am really trying here, guys, but it looks like it is just not going to let me capture my desktop, capture my web browser. If you guys know a way to fix that, let me know. For now, we're going to go back to showing the game coverage because that is coming up. And I will read off to you the patch notes. You saw in Discord where I was at, so you did get to see that. So it's the May 5th patch notes that you need to check to see this. And you go through all the changes. And where is it? Was it the May? Maybe it wasn't the May 5th patch. Let me go back to the portal. Let me check because I thought it was the May 5th. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me find it. Let me figure out which patch it's in. Ah, here we go. Okay, never mind. I'm an idiot. It was the April 28th patch. So again, April 28th has the PvP followers changes. And okay, so we'll just go from the top. It says PvP damage. When a player is in PvP with another player, there is a follower damage window that resets every 3 seconds. During these windows, each follower, either tamed or summoned, belonging to a player, is capped at inflicting a cumulative damage equal to its follower PvP damage cap against another player. The follower PvP damage cap is the creature's control slots times 1 plus the controller's total printed follower skills divided by 100. And there's some parentheses in there and that formula and how it works, but basically I just read it off. So any cumulative damage inflicted by a follower during the window that would exceed its follower PvP damage cap will be reduced to 0. Okay, so that is a very specific call out of how follower damage works in PvP. Now, what are the skills that they're talking about? What printed follower skills are they talking about? Specifically, just like I spoke to yesterday, animal taming, animal lore, veterinary, herding, and for summoning specifically, spirit speaking. So, if you're a tamer, you want to worry about animal taming, animal lore, veterinary, and herding. If you're a summoner, I believe you just want to worry about spirit speaking and herding and maybe vet. But spirit speaking and herding, I believe, are the main two. I don't have a summoner, so I may be completely speaking out of a black hole. All right, so an example. A player has 100 taming, 100 animal lore, and 100 veterinary for a total of 300 printed follower skill points. 300 printed skills. They are using a Bulvor, which is a 3 control slot, and a Black Widow, which is a 2 control slot. The Bulvor can inflict a maximum of 3 times 1 plus 300 divided by 100, which comes out to 12 damage every 3 seconds against another player in PvP. The Black Widow can inflict a maximum of 2, the number of control slots again, times 1 plus 300 divided by 100, 8 damage every 3 seconds against another player. So this is regardless, the difference here is this is regardless of spell damage or melee. Doesn't matter which kind of pet you're using. The damage caps are apparently the same. And it says spells cast by followers against other players will ignore magic reflect on the player. Will not be reflected and will not remove the magic reflect on the player. So that favors the other player because one of the biggest advantages of having pets that cast spells would be that they could remove magic reflect so that when you cast telekinesis to stick that sticky pot to that other guy, it sticks. Because with my build, that's what I'm trying to do. I want to stick him with the sticky pot. So Spells cast by follower against other players will no longer have an effect on the player's first through fourth circle interrupt window for PvP. In other words, they cannot interrupt the first four circle level spells for PvP, which I do believe include telekinesis and weaken. So if you're not a major mage trying to cast high damage spells, they won't interrupt. But if you are a mage, like a Halley mage or something for your class, for your red class, pet spells apparently can interrupt, because it's not mentioned here, can interrupt 4 through 8. So higher level damage spells they could potentially interrupt. But again, that's also going to be based on how long that spell takes to cast. That's why having pets that cast a lot repeatedly is the way to go if you're using spell pets. Okay. So that's the basics of what I wanted to cover. I already told you guys that pets in factions and in regular PvP events will not be able to use commands. So they are completely worthless. So tamers basically are not really allowed to compete in town struggles, in dungeon flashpoints, in Corpse Creek, or in factions. So that was a decision made by the devs because they were tired of people complaining about pets in PvP. And mind you, that's with the massive nerfs on pets that are in place right now, to where they barely ever get their special ability off, and their damage is severely capped. Even with 400 and I think it's 480 skill points, the damage cap is going to be significant because I've done the math. I've put 480 in instead of 300 in here. And for a 4-slot pet, well, we can do the math right now. I can give you guys the math right now. So let's see what this equals. We're going to grab this equation, copy this equation. We're going to go to Edge, and we're going to use Edge's AI to figure it out. So we're going to stick this in here, and then we're going to say the pet, instead of being a 3-slot, is a 4-slot. And instead of 300 printed skill points, we have 480. And then we're going to hit enter. So final answer with 480, the maximum amount of printed skills that you can get for a pet, which again, I don't have. Your damage for a 4-slot pet at maximum every 3 seconds is 23.2. Now, that might seem very small, and it is, but in reality, in PvP, it's not that bad. It's probably about 10 points less than what it should be, but it's not that bad. I don't think this takes into effect status effects. So while your damage won't stack, and what I mean by that is while your damage won't stack on top of that status effect, it's still going to affect how much damage you're doing every 3 seconds. That status damage is going to stick on that player, and they are going to get hit for the disease, they are going to get hit for the poison, they are going to get hit for the bleed, and they will not be able to remove at least the disease and the bleed without using a cleansing brew, which is something that most people are not carrying. Some people do, a lot of them don't. So, and because cleansing brews can be kind of expensive. If you lose those in the dungeon as a red, you really just wasted a bunch of money. So a lot of people don't carry cleansing brews because they are kind of expensive, unless you make them yourself. So usually, status effects like bleed and disease are more important in PvP than just raw damage because they put a tick on that player where they're constantly losing health to something over a specific period of time, usually 15 to 20 seconds. So So there's two reasons that pets can still be useful in PvP, even with this abysmal damage that they're allowed to do. And they can interrupt higher level spells. They can keep somebody moving if they're melee pets, because melee pets attack faster, and they have stuff like lethal poison, and people don't want to have to keep popping cure pots to get that off, or getting hindered. So um, they still have uses. They are still a distraction. At best, they're a distraction. At worst, at worst they're a distraction. At best, they're an additional source of damage that adds to your total dump. But with that being said, with you guys having those abysmal damage numbers, um, and I can post this. I can see if I can post this in the chat so you guys can see it. Let's see if I can post this in the chat. Yeah, so there you go. So I just posted it in the chat. I don't know if you guys can read it, but it's right there. Divide 480 by 100 equals 4.8. Add 1 to that result. I didn't get the whole. It wouldn't give me the whole. Didn't give me the whole formula. 1 plus 4 times 8 is 5.8. Multiply that result by 4. 4 times 5.8 is 2.3. 23.2. In other words, 5.8 is the maximum damage a pet can do per control slot. And my equation is going to be worse, because if I'm doing this, let's do the math for my guy. So if I go to my skills, my printed skill points for taming are 240 plus 80. So I have exactly 320, right? 240, 120 from animal taming, 120 from lore, and 80 from vet. So let's just say 200 would be 120 plus 80, and then, yeah, so 320. 320 is my skill point. So if I put 320 into that equation, it's going to be a little bit worse. Let's put that original up here. Copy, we're going to paste that, and then we're going to change the number of 480 to 320 to see how bad my damage is with my pets. So my maximum damage should be, according to this on another player, 16.8. Now I can tell you from testing that I've done that is not 100% correct, because I've hit a player for a single effect at 19 damage from my pet, from their special. So I don't think that includes the pet special ability. I think that is the raw melee or spell DPS. Because at most, with my skill set, I should be able to do 16.8 with my current skill set. And there's no bonuses to that. That's supposed to be a hard cap. So I think that's a little bit off. I think there's, from the stat, I think the status effects probably aren't counted in that. Potentially. I don't know. You guys will have to test and verify that. So 16.8 for a 4-slot pet is my cap. Typically, I'll run 4-slot pets a lot of the time because I want to maximize my burst damage. However, if I do this same equation, let's do the math again with a 2-slot, because I'm running two 2-slots and a 1-slot. So if I'm running two 2-slots, it's probably going to be what? 8 or something like that, essentially. Yeah, 8.4. So both of my horsies should be able to do 8.4 of the regular cap damage. So combined, they're going to do 16. And then with the additional, the 1-slot, I think the 1-slot would be doing like 4.2 if I broke that in half. So yeah, so you know it's not a ton of damage from the pets, which is why I built this guy because I wanted to be able to run tames because I like taming is my favorite thing to do in this game, but at the same time I wanted to be at least a little bit harder to kill in PvP. And not to play in structured PvP, mind you. I'm talking about when you're farming in the dungeon and you have a bunch of jerks come up and try to kill you, or a jerk rather come up and try to kill you. You can actually defend yourself or steal from you to try to get you to go and get into a fight. They might get more than they bargained for. That's literally what this build is designed to do. So with that being the case, what I wanted to cover more specifically was mastery chain setup. I want to take my jacket off. Let me just pull my chain off. Put it in here. So with that being the case, this mastery chain setup is probably not the best because again, it's a good bet that my pets are going to hit that cap. I'd be willing to bet they're going to hit that cap for follower damage. And the melee aspect chance doesn't help me in PvP because it is not a and neither is the melee aspect modifier. So what I would do if I were running for PvP, if I'm this character, I would run as many alchemy links as I possibly could. And the reason being is I want to bump that damage up that my pet's doing as much as I possibly can. So I'm going to put all of those links that I just pulled out in my blue chain. And I got to figure out which ones those are. Because I want to make sure I only grab follower chance links. And, sorry, not follower chance, alchemy links and the other ones. I do not want these. I want follower damage and the alchemy links that I just pulled. So we're going to install single. We're going to install single. We're going to install single. Now I have 9 links installed. And I've got 5 follower damage links and 4 alchemy healing links. Now, so I don't lose track of these other links, I'm going to install all these in the other chain just so they stay in my inventory and they're not getting lost. There we go. Yeah, I didn't want to lose any of those links. They don't all belong to me. I've actually borrowed a couple links from somebody. Now I have another link, I think, here in this box. And this link I need to change because it should not be that link. I'm going to change it to one that I can use. Right now it's damage to humanoid creatures. I don't really want that. I don't need that. That is not useful to me. So we're going to take this gold, dump it in the bank. We're going to go to Prevalia real quick and we're going to and what we're also going to do, we're going to spend a few society points on a upgrade real quick. Alright, so we got the reforge kit. That is probably went to my bank, I'm betting. So we're gonna grab that out of there. And we're gonna go back to our house. I might as well show you guys the whole process. So I've got this link and I want to change it. I can't put it in there because that's my adventure satchel. Put it there. And we are going to change it to Alchemy Healing Vet. Now the reason I'm doing that instead of follower damage, and I could do other things. I could totally try to bump out my melee damage too because I'm running a bow. My swing speed. I could do a bunch of stuff. I could look at melee damage, for example. But right now, I'm just gonna try to do the alchemy because I think these alchemy links have a dual effect for me. They do both. They do a bump to my damage and a bump to my pets. So we're gonna put that in, and we are gonna roll just like that. 5 and 5, follower damage, and alchemy healing vet. That's what we're gonna do. And eventually we're going to change these all to silvers, and then eventually gold when we can afford it. I'm still pretty young at this game. So now I think with that setup, I'm probably a little bit better set up to do PvP damage. So now that we're set up, we got our pets picked out. We have I was going to show you, the next thing I was going to show you guys was the other setup that you could roll with. So this is 3 good spell pets. The other thing you could do, we're going to stable followers. I showed you could run a big poison 4-slot pet earlier. That works really well. Let's see. The other thing you can do is run backstabbers. And you can run any makeup of backstabbers that you want. They don't need to be, they could be a giant 4-slot like this guy right here, giant trapdoor spider. and then run that with a 1 slot of some sort. If you're running a melee 4 slot, I think it's still helpful to maybe run a spell pet 1 slot, just to have a little bit of extra range DPS and a chance to interrupt on the higher spells like we talked about. So I would probably go ahead and run the Eldritch Method again with this guy. So that would be a really good combo. And the pets always stay stealthed if they're not in combat. So if you're trying to drop on somebody else, especially if like if you went to the dungeon and you had somebody steal from you and you want to just like go grab a nasty real quick and come back, this would be a good combination. Come back in there with the trapdoor, figure out where that thief is at, who they're, and I'm talking about aggro thieves now, people that come up and steal something from you for the sole purpose of starting a fight. Figure out where that jerk is at, come back in there and unleash your pet's fury on them. This is a good combo. It's also a good combination if you're already in the dungeon, but it's a little tougher to work because unless you're in a group, you need a tank, right? You need a tank pet. But my go-to is the Blightmare and the Courser and the other pet when I'm doing, because the range damage is a little bit easier to to manage in a PvP situation. What else? Is there any other good combinations in here? Frenzied Ostards used to be a really good combo back in the day, I was told. I mean, you could run a pack of Sandstalkers, I guess. They're all 120 backstabbing pets. Those are pretty good. Blood Apes can be good. They have only problem is their wrestling is really low even at max level. But they have Blood Frenzy and Bleed. Pets with Blood Frenzy and Bleed like Blood Apes and Blood Hunters are good, because they can really bump out the damage. One combo I'd like to try, I'd kind of like to try this guy. This is a Shadow Prowler, and they have Frenzy, and they have this thing called Shadow Strikes. Melee attacks ignore 33% of target's armor. It's just a flat benefit to their melee. To me, things like that would probably be way more useful in PvP because it's just going to apply. You know, it's not a special proc, it's just there. This is what the pet does. So I'm betting this guy will probably always hit for max damage on a player because of that. And then he's got Frenzy on top of it. And the Frenzy on this thing can be pretty crazy. Like I said, again, he's probably not going to do any more damage in Frenzy, but he'll at least always hit his cap. So the problem with pets that aren't stealth, that are melee, is people see them coming, they can paralyze field them, and then they're out of it. They're out of it until you hit them with a magic arrow or something like that. Which that does work. Hitting your pets with a magic arrow gets them out of the paralyzed, just like a trap pouch gets you out. So that's one other option. This thing, if the spines go off, can be pretty good. Unfortunately, these barbs don't always go off on players. It's really tough to get it to apply to a player. But typically your best pets to use in PvP are your 120s. But yeah, that's just some of the stuff that I run with. I want to talk a little bit about pets specifically and why they're not as useful as you might think in PvP. I think we covered that just because of the damage caps. And then kind of how to set your mastery chain up for specific purpose. What are you doing? Are you attacking players? Are you going for farming? Are you expecting to do a little bit of both? you know, what do you want to, what links do you want to put in your chains for that purpose? So that's just kind of some basic overview stuff today. I do want to go to the dungeon, see if I can run into somebody. I don't know where to go though, that's the question. And then we're gonna go ahead and put this chain on. We'll eat our food. Oh, let's see. Maybe we can play around in Crawl Hive. Oh, probably need some pets first though. Yeah, probably need some pets. What do I want to roll with? You know what, I'll do I will start with the combo that I had out. No, we gotta wait on our mana. Probably should wait on our mana anyway. Hit myself with an arrow so I get Spell Siphon going. And we give it 20 seconds to get our mana back. So the one benefit of focus over resist, we talked about resist versus focus. Focus provides, I believe, a bit more stamina, gives you a stamina and mana regen rate increase, which is nice for somebody like myself who has a very low mana build. Because for me, once I've thrown my first pot, I have to wait a few seconds. I can't keep throwing pots. This build's really limited in what it can do with that regard. From that regard. Alright, let's hop in there. Did I just hit shelter?